Uh, could you say something about synchronicity? You just said to ask the universe for a friend. One of the questions I wanted to ask you this week was to have some clarification about synchronicity, and yeah, this is the question, to be short.
To be sure.
Yeah, the question if you could clarify
about synchronicity, about whether synchronicity exists.
Does it work?
Does it work? Well, under the materialist paradigm, synchronicity is just one of those numerous uncomfortable facts of life that really has to be dismissed. The fact that I might have an idea, I might wake up and have an idea, and I get up, I look at my phone, there's a text from Ellen, and on Ellen's text she suggests the idea that I just had. I mean, has anybody here not had an experience like that? It's common. So under the materialist paradigm, my mind, and in this case Ellen's mind, are completely separate. Separate in time and space. And we are now at a distance of, whatever it is, 100 or so miles. So there's absolutely no way that my mind could be in contact with hers. So we have to say that's chance. Now, I hadn't thought about this particular thing for 10 years. And she hadn't thought of it for 10 years. So what are the chances of both of us thinking of this morning? And when I think of it, her texting me. What are the chances? I'm sure a mathematician could. But it would be 1 in a what? 1 in a billion. And this happens very often. Everyone here has had an experience. So that's an awful lot of coincidences. And an awful lot of coincidences where the odds of them happening are almost impossible. So that's a real problem for the materialist paradigm. Okay, now let's take the consciousness only paradigm. Each of our minds are precipitated in the same field of infinite consciousness. It is infinite consciousness itself that, vibrating within itself, assumes the form of each of our minds, just like each of our finite minds is capable of having numerous thoughts in time, so infinite consciousness is capable of having numerous minds simultaneously. Are you with me? Each of our minds can only think one thought at a time. But infinite consciousness can think innumerable thoughts at the same time. And each of our minds is a thought in the mind of God, or infinite consciousness. So each of our minds, the 100 minds that are now present, each of them, at their deepest level, spring from the same source and are therefore informed by the same source. Now, the more that mind comes into form, the more at the level of form, each of those minds is separate. The sensation that I'm now having is distinct from the sensation that you're now having. What I'm now thinking is distinct from what you are now thinking. So there is a distinction between minds at the level of form. But as each mind traces its way back to its source, there is more and more and more connection between minds. And at the deepest level, our minds are connected. That's the experience of love. So under this paradigm, it's not so surprising that a thought that takes place in one mind over here and a thought that takes place in another mind over here is connected. It's no stranger than the fact that at dinner I can pass you a glass of water, because my body and your body appear in the same physical space, relatively speaking. Because our two bodies share the same space, it is possible for us to pass an object from one to another. But now what about if our two minds appear in the same aware space? It's possible for for a thought to be passed between two minds, in just the same way that it's possible for an object to be passed between two bodies. So synchronicity is a manifestation of the fact that our minds, below the threshold of the waking state, are connected. It's to be expected. It's no stranger than the fact that I can pass you a glass of water.
Would you say that when you'd like something to happen, you better ask it clearly?
Not clearly, impersonally. Because the reason why an impersonal desire is fulfilled is because the one who is asking is the same as the one who is asked. But you have to ask, what you desire or ask for has to be asked for on behalf of the whole, not on behalf of the person. Therefore, it must be an impersonal desire. Just make sure that what you're asking for is on behalf of truth, love, or beauty.